Welcome to the guide on how to insulate your sauna properly and with a real-world example. Whether you're building an indoor sauna inside your home or a freestanding outdoor sauna in your backyard, insulation plays an important role depending on the location and usage. In this video, I'll explain how sauna insulation works in general, and then I'll walk you through the differences between indoor and outdoor sauna insulation, and finally, I'll share exactly how we built and insulated our own outdoor sauna, including what worked, what we skipped, and what we learned from real-life testing. My name is Anton, I'm a Finnish sauna expert at thesaunaheater.com. We've helped thousands of sauna builders make their dream saunas come true, and today I'm going to show you how we made ours. Let's dive in. How sauna insulation works. Saunas aren't like any ordinary rooms. When you heat up a sauna, you're creating an extreme temperature and humidity conditions in a short amount of time. The air inside might reach around 170 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, while outside, especially in colder climates, might be freezing. And this creates a lot of pressure on your sauna structure. Insulating a sauna properly serves two important purposes. First, heat insulation helps retain warmth during your sauna session and making your sauna more energy efficient. Secondly, humidity insulation, also known as vapor sealing. It helps prevent moisture from escaping the sauna and damaging other nearby structures, which is especially important for indoor saunas. To do this correctly, you need to use the right materials in the right layers. The most common and effective materials for heat insulation include mineral wool like rock wool and foil-filled PIR boards such as Finfoil. These materials are compact, heat resistant, and designed for tight spaces like sauna walls and ceiling cavities. Insulation thickness is typically between 50 and 100 millimeters in walls, so about 2 to 4 inches. The ceiling can be doubled to 4 to 8 inches, and the reason for that is because heat always goes up, so you will want to insulate the ceiling a little bit better than the walls. Let's move on to floor insulation in your sauna and when it actually makes sense to do it. Floor insulation is something always done in indoor saunas since you don't want any of the humidity going into the rest of your home structures. In outdoor saunas, it's a little bit different. It's only used when the sauna is being used really frequently or in extremely cold weather, and even then it's not as important as the other insulation elements in the sauna. One important thing to remember when insulating the floor is not to make any unnecessary holes or compromise in the floor except for the drain. The more sealed and simple your floor is, the less chance there is for moisture to end up in places where it definitely shouldn't go. To make it simple, think of the sauna flooring like a shower floor, fully waterproof, and this is how it's done here in Finland when it comes to indoor saunas, and you can't really go wrong with that. In indoor setups, especially with stone or tile floors, you can add floor heating like electric or hydronic heating. The reason is that the sauna is part of your house, and this is probably the best way to keep your space still warm even when the sauna is not in use. Now when it comes to humidity insulation, you want to use a vapor barrier, and this is usually a reflective aluminum foil. The vapor barrier goes right behind the interior cladding and it's right in front of the insulation. Its job is to trap steam and moisture inside the sauna so it doesn't leak into the walls, ceilings, or floor beyond the sauna area. If it leaks, then you risk mold forming, and we definitely don't want that. To install a vapor barrier properly, make sure you overlap the seams by at least 150 millimeters or 6 inches and seal everything with heat-resistant tape and carefully seal all penetrations like lights or vents. This is one of the most important details in sauna construction that many DIY builders overlook. I do want to remind you that you want to have an air gap between the interior cladding and the vapor barrier, so when there gets humidity on the vapor barrier itself, it dries out also without trapping moisture into the cladding. This gap is usually made with furring strips, and something around a half-inch gap is good for the air gap. Okay, let me show you an illustration so you get more of an idea on the different layers of the sauna insulation. So we're going to start off from the inside layer and move on to the outside slowly, layer by layer. First, we have the interior cladding, which you can see right here. The interior cladding is going to be the one obviously you're going to see and feel when you're in the sauna itself and enjoying the heat. So after the interior cladding, where those interior cladding panels are going to be placed on is going to be the furring strips. And the furring strips are right here. And like I said, it should be around a half-inch gap so the good airflow goes through and the moisture doesn't get stuck on the vapor barrier and between the cladding, creating mold. Then from that, we have the vapor barrier, as I just mentioned, and that's going to be right here. So the vapor barrier is going to keep the humidity and the heat outside of the sauna. Mostly the humidity is the biggest thing, a little bit of the heat, but mainly humidity is something you don't want anywhere else but the sauna environment. Then we move on to the studs, and the insulation are kind of the same spot, but let's start from the studs because that's where you're going to be nailing or attaching the vapor barrier to, and also the furring strips. So let's start with the studs in the wall. They're going to be right here. And then of course the main part and the biggest part of your insulation is going to be the mineral wool or rock wool insulation, and it's right here. All of those 5 things is something you need in an indoor sauna specifically, and outdoor sauna it doesn't hurt, but it's definitely you want to have it in the indoor saunas. So you have the interior cladding is number 1. Then secondly, after that, it's going to be the furring strips, number 2. Then the vapor barrier, 3. The studs, 4. And the rock wool insulation or mineral wool, 5. And that's it. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science. And hopefully that kind of helps you get an idea on the different layers and make your sauna how it should be. As long as you do all these 4 different layers in the sauna, you should be good to go and you shouldn't have any problems in the long run with any mold or structural damage in the rest of your home. Don't worry. Indoor versus outdoor sauna installation. Let's now break it down to 2 of the most common sauna builds, indoor saunas and outdoor saunas, and how their installation needs are very different. If you're building an indoor sauna inside your home or as part of another heated structure, you must insulate always. This includes the walls, the ceiling, and usually the floor as well. And you must also install a vapor barrier. You might be asking why? That's because heat and moisture generated in the sauna will naturally try to move outwards. If your sauna is connected to another room, a basement, or a bathroom, that moisture can seep into the drywall, wooden beams, insulation, or even electrical components. Over time, that can lead to mold, rot, and structural damage. Even if you only use a sauna like twice a week, the repeated exposure to steam will wear down your home's materials unless they're properly protected. So, for indoor saunas, vapor sealing is non-negotiable. Insulation is also extremely important, but if heat gets into your house, it's not as bad as moisture because of the lack of a vapor barrier. Think of it as protecting your home as much as enhancing your sauna. Now, if you're building a freestanding outdoor sauna, things are a little bit different. With outdoor saunas, you're not trying to protect the interior living spaces. The walls may be exposed to open air and the structure isn't connected to your house. In these cases, insulation becomes optional depending on how you use your sauna. If you're going to be using your outdoor sauna in long sessions or every day during the winter, then insulating the walls and ceiling might help make it more energy efficient and faster to heat. But if you're building a simple cabin style sauna that runs for like 1 to 2 hours at a time, you may not need to insulate the walls at all, especially if you're using thick wood or logs. Wood has natural insulation properties and many traditional Finnish saunas are built this way, uninsulated, breathable, and effective. So to summarize, indoor sauna, always insulate and seal it. No questions asked. Outdoor sauna, ceiling insulation is smart, but wall and floor insulation are optional and in many cases not necessary. Random facts, but even ice has been used in sauna construction since ice is a good insulator, probably not the most practical use as an insulator, but point being, as long as you have enough power from the heater, insulation is not always needed. How we insulate our own outdoor sauna. Now let's get practical. Here's how we built and insulate our own freestanding outdoor sauna and the results we saw from testing it in real use. Our sauna was designed to be easy to assemble, affordable to build, and still perform really well. That meant making intentional decisions about where to insulate and where not to. We started with the ceiling, and that's where we focused the most of our insulation effort. We used 30mm or 1.2-inch per fin foam, a rigid foam board with foil facing on one side. The foil side faces inward to reflect radiant heat back into the sauna. We mounted the boards tightly between the ceiling rafters and sealed all the seams using heat-resistant aluminum tape. This setup made a noticeable difference. Since heat rises, the ceiling is the #1 place where insulation helps. It kept the heat from escaping and made the sauna warm up quicker and retain the heat longer. For the walls, we used 40mm thick thermal wood with no additional insulation. We made that decision because it made construction a lot easier and more simple. We didn't need to frame the wall cavities or layer insulation and vapor barriers, and it is not needed when you have enough thermal power from the heater itself. But most importantly, we tested it. We ran a sauna and monitored how much heat escaped, and what we found was that there was no significant heat loss through the walls for the first 3 hours of sauna use, and that's longer than most sauna sessions, which tend to last around 1 to 2 hours. So for us and the most typical outdoor sauna use, the wall insulation just didn't make a measurable difference and worth doing. We also chose not to insulate the floor. Our floor is raised slightly off the ground and built from solid wood. If we had added insulation, we risk trapping moisture between the insulation and the wood planks, which can lead to rot. Since our setup allows air to circulate under the floor, it dries naturally and stays in good shape even in wet conditions. What you should remember. To wrap up, here's what we've learned both through theory and the real-world experience. If you're building an indoor sauna, you should always insulate the ceiling, floor, and walls, and you must install a vapor barrier to protect the rest of your home from any moisture damage. If you're building a freestanding outdoor sauna, we recommend insulating at least the ceiling, but wall and floor insulation are optional. If you're using thick wood and your sessions are short, you might not need them at all. A vapor barrier isn't usually required outdoors unless your build is extremely airtight or adjacent to another structure, for example. Most of all, think about how often you use your own sauna, for how long, and in what climate. That will guide your decisions better than a one-size-fits-all rule. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.